Welcome back to Citizen Extra. We continue to monitor many developments coming out of the courts. At the Milimani Law Court, a directive has been given that the Director of Public Prosecution, who in this case we can assume will be the acting DPP, Dorcas Odor, who formerly was the Secretary of Public Prosecutions, is expected to appear at noon to confirm whether Miguna, self-declared NRM general, he's also a lawyer and was a former gubernatorial candidate for Nairobi County, has been charged. And a ruling on the same matter will be delivered at 2 p.m. You remember, of course, that yesterday the court asked that even ordered that the Inspector General of Police, Joseph Boynet, and the Director of Criminal Investigations, George Kinoti, were to appear in court to explain circumstances surrounding their failure to release Miguna. The High Court Judge Luka Kimaru gave that order yesterday when a group of more than 10 lawyers appeared before him to protest failure by the state to release their colleague who was granted bail on Friday. We are told now that Miguna has been charged in a Kajiado court, but for clarification on that, the DPP is expected to appear before the court at 12. That is in the next 1 hour, 10 minutes or so. In another matter, out of the same courts as well, the police have been ordered not to arrest Honorable James Orengo, George Aladwa, Simba Arati, James Hanir, Jimmy Wanjigi, Norman Magaya, Gladys Wanga, David Ndi, Babu Owino, and Oduor Ongweno. Now, the judge has directed, that's Luka Kimaru, that the named persons appear at the Directorate of Criminal Investigation tomorrow and is granted them anticipatory bail of 100,000 Kenya shillings. The matter is to be mentioned next Tuesday. So the court has barred the police from arresting those people. That's Nasa Zorengo, Aladwa, Arati, Haniri, Magaya, Honorable Wanga, David Ndi, NASA strategist, Babu Owino and Ongwen on anticipatory bail of 100,000 Kenya shillings, and they are supposed to report to the DCI headquarters tomorrow. That is a little bit about what is happening at the courts today. Let's now tell you what's happening on the international front. We start in South Africa. Rival marches were held by supporters and critics of South African President Jacob Zuma outside the African National Congress headquarters in Johannesburg on Monday. One group gathered outside the building singing and dancing with placards reading "Zuma must go," but others from the Black First Land First group led a hands-off Zuma demonstration calling for the president to remain in power until his term ends next year. Speaking to Reuters outside the headquarters, ANC member Mkhulu White said that while some are sick and tired of Zuma, no march should undermine the ANC's powers to appoint and recall its own leaders. South Africa's ruling ANC will hold an urgent meeting on Monday to discuss Zuma's future as head of state after overnight talks with the scandal-plagued 75-year-old leader failed to secure his departure. Zuma has been in power since 2009, but has recently faced growing pressure to resign as president since he was replaced as leader of the ANC in December by Cyril Ramaphosa, South Africa's deputy president. While staying with African matters, a renegade Congolese colonel who had threatened to depose President Joseph Kabila has been extradited from Tanzania and will be prosecuted for rebellion, Congo's defense minister told Reuters yesterday. In a video that was circulated on social media last month, John Shibangu, who had been based in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo, gave the president a 45-day ultimatum to leave or we are going to take Kabila down. But Shibangu was then detained by authorities in Tanzania towards the end of last month. In a statement by text message to Reuters, Congo's defense minister Crispin Atama Tabe confirmed that Shibangu was in Kinshasa, where he would face justice. Shibangu used to be a military commander in the central Congolese region of Kasai. He defected in 2012 and moved to the lawless east, long a haunt of would-be Congolese rebels.
Lelu tuanga engagement kumpala kwa communauté internationale, kumpala kwa communauté nationale, toi pesi Kabila 45 jours, wani Kabila alekela bukaleng.
Now, Israel has begun giving African migrants 2 months to leave the country or risk jail. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government started handing out 60-day notices on Sunday, offering them cash and a ticket to a third country. It has also begun recruiting immigration agents to enforce this new policy. The fate of some 37,000 Africans has posed a moral and public relations dilemma for Israel, a nation founded as a safe haven for Jews from persecution, but whose right-wing government faces pressure from its nationalist voter base to expel the migrants. A fence Israel built over the past few years along its border with Egypt has cut off the flow of Africans, many of them claiming political asylum, from entering the country legally. But taking menial jobs, the migrant community of mostly Eritreans and Sudanese has changed the ethnic makeup of some city slums. Israel says they are infiltrators out to find work and better their fortunes. In case you thought it's only in Africa where there are cities that need to be cleaned up, let's take a look at what's happening in Europe, specifically Paris. The mayor of Paris vowed yesterday to clean up the city's streets, decrying the bad impression of cigarette butts, fast food wrappers, and even rats that has given one of the world's most visited cities a bad name. Anne Hidalgo presented a series of measures to the city's council, including mobile street cleaners and improved rubbish bins, but said residents and citizens needed to take responsibility for their behavior, threatening them with fines. 32 million euros would be invested in new, greener cleaning equipment, the mayor said, and rubbish bins would be made more rat-proof. Videos have emerged on social media of a proliferation of rats in the city, worsened by recent flooding, and the mayor said that though the problem is not new or particular to Paris, he intends to tackle it, adding that hundreds of sites were cleared of rodents in 2017. Now, this is not the first time the city authorities have attempted to tackle this problem of cleanliness. Well, you want to pay attention to this next story. Dramatic drone footage showed a Interstate 44 near Marshfield, Missouri on Sunday. The aerial video shared by Conway Volunteer Fire Department on Monday on Facebook has been viewed over 1.5 million times in under a day. Now, what you're seeing is a rough estimate of 100 vehicles that were involved in this crash. The fire department wrote on Facebook. The footage shows cars, trucks that slid off the snowy interstate, as well as lodged on the road following the crash. Local news reported that one woman was killed and approximately 11 people were reported injured following the large accident. Security is one of the latest areas where smart robots are assuming a larger role and increasingly performing jobs that many humans would rather not do. One example is Ramsey, that's the name of a robot, one of the first security robots in the United States, which has been developed by a Colorado-based firm, Gamma 2 Robotics Corporate Development. The robot that you're seeing on your screen meets an increasing demand from security providers who are looking for new and cost-effective ways to protect their clients. Ramsey has so far been a model employee with its robotic nature that has made it well suited for carrying out the rigors of security work, which has been labeled by humans as dull, dirty, dangerous, and repetitive. Now, this robot is equipped with 4 cameras and sensors that help it to detect heat, smoke, humidity, gases, as well as motion. The robot can send alerts to a monitoring center, which can then dispatch a fast responder if needed. 10 robots of this nature have been built so far, according to its developer, and they are priced at roughly $65,000 per machine, with a predicted useful life of 3 years.
Very pleased to meet you. I hope you have a great time.
Meanwhile, President Tayyip Erdogan made the first visit by a Turkish president to the Vatican in 59 years yesterday, as Rome was put under heavy security measures for fear of demonstrations. Erdogan, returning a visit made by the Pope to Turkey in 2014, spoke privately with Pope Francis for about 50 minutes or so in the Pope's study room in the Vatican's Apostolic Palace, which he uses mostly for ceremonial purposes. The Vatican was due to issue a statement later on topics discussed, but Erdogan said before he left Turkey that he would discuss the Middle East situation and Jerusalem in particular. Both Erdogan and the Pope are opposed to U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, which many U.S. allies say could doom Middle East peace efforts. Well, Samsung Group heir J.Y. Lee has said yesterday that he spent his year in jail on precious self-reflection and promised to show a better side in future after a Seoul High Court jailed Lee for for 2.5 years, reducing the original term by half, and suspended the sentence for charges including bribery and embezzlement. The 49-year-old heir to one of the world's biggest corporate empires had been detained since last February. The lawyer for Lee said on Monday his client plans to appeal to the Supreme Court after he was found guilty of some charges by an appeals court, even though his sentence was suspended and he was able to walk free.
영길 씨 먼저 가고 자리 잡지. 여기 있어. 찍는 거.
Well, let's come back to the African continent. An Ethiopian court sentenced a senior opposition leader to 6 months in jail for contempt of court on Monday because he raised his hand when addressed by the judge rather than standing, his lawyer has said. This court ruling came despite a government push to release politicians jailed after mass protests broke out 3 years ago in the Oromia region of accusations of land grabbing. More than 2,000 political prisoners have been released since January as part of a package of reforms announced to try to calm lingering tensions. Bekele Gerba, who is the Secretary General of the opposition group Oromo Federalist Congress, was arrested in December 2015 and charged with involvement in terrorism. The charge was later reduced to inciting violence. Well, many thanks indeed for staying with us. Time now for a quick break. We'll be right back with more updates.
Desperation forced her to run into a double life.
Kill me! Kill me! Not them!
Great! ICE officers entering! Take off! Let's go!
I found her.
After everything she did to you.
But circumstances come with painful consequences.
Where did you get this green card?
I don't know. From here, from there, from anywhere.
But you sold it to me.
What did you say the teacher's name was?
Estela Carillo. Now everybody knows who you are.
What trouble has he got himself into?
You are here because of her. I'm sure he's going to make them return Palomita and me to Mexico.
Bring Estela Carillo here no matter what. Do you understand me?
That's her. That's her voice.
The Two Lives of Estela Carillo, only on Citizen Television.
What's the meaning of this? Baby, what's going on? I will not do it. Then prepare to leave my house.
Hey! It's love, baby,